Rising here, and welcome to this month's painting video. A little late, but we're here. I have painted up the new Mercenaries from SFG, Abberation and Nostilla. This video is a little bit late, and I wanted to thank all the kind comments I got. I posted I was a little sick last week. All of you said, get better. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. But I'm back, good to go, and we got these guys knocked out. So, on to painting. The psychic force that is Nostilla and the hulking monstrosity that is the Abberation. I really didn't have a big plan of how I wanted to paint these. I know I wanted to do cold, gross, and just kind of have like this new mother tone, as somebody in one of my streams called it out. Basically a universal shadow that a lot of other YouTubers are doing, and I wanted mine to be blue, because that's just ice, blue, whole thing, kind of on brand, right? So you'll see as I progress through this video, I didn't have a lot of clear direction when I was painting these guys. I kind of was just painting with where I wanted. So I was like, oh, we're gonna jump to this. I'm kind of stuck here, let's jump over there. And like, I learned a lot on this model, and that was like the greatest thing in the title of this video. It's like, it's okay to learn on big models because you'll have more fun doing it. And then you have this awesome big, almost centerpiece representation of where you were at in your painting career or whatever you want to call it. And then you have a piece to look back on that's like very important and monumental, because you're like, hey, this is where I started. A year later, paint another big piece, and you're like, oh, I've improved X amount. So yeah, we can jump into the painting on how I painted this super cold Nostilla and Abberation. Editing Ice King here. If you're curious how the building process went, how I did the custom base, how I attached the model, be sure to tune into my live streams. They're awesome, there's always a lot of fun, and I always learn something new from chat. So back to painting. So starting out with the mother tone, as my stream called it. Thank you for much for that one. That was a fun one. But it's basically a universal shadow. We're using P3 Exile Blue to paint the whole model over a black primer. Using Signar Blue, quickly covering just the top 2/3 of the model, aiming downwards and just kind of covering the majority of the model, leaving the darkest recesses at Exile Blue. And finally, for a final airbrush highlight, we are hitting it with my favorite color of all the new P3 paints, I think so far, is Rune Shot. And that's not just because it reminds me of RuneScape. So we're spraying this on just the highest areas where we want the eye to be pulled the most. By the way, all of this can be done with a brush. I was just doing this in prep for Nova because I had a short time frame, and I just did with an airbrush. All of this can easily be done with a brush. You just paint the whole model, the top 2/3, and then the top 1/3, and it's that simple. Next up is part of the model that I was most comfy with, which was the monster flesh. And having no idea what I wanted to do with the rest of the model outside of, oh, I'll maybe try this, I wanted to paint something I knew, and I wanted to do something that I was comfortable with. So taking Blackwater sand, it was a little bit too warm for my liking, with the whole tone of the model being frozen tundra. I mixed in some of that Exile Blue to get from our base color, almost desaturating it a little bit, just to get that, to tie the whole model together and help us build a third out of our little triad that we're going for here. Being sure to leave the dark blue in the lowest areas or the areas that are tucked away and won't ever be seen by anyone but a judge's eye. Next up, we do our mid-tone in a striking thin motion using just pure Blackwater sand. But having that cold base, it's okay to have that middle tone now, because I really want to add that texture to the model that this guy is like jacked rip and like basically tearing out of his skin with all the drugs that Cephalix has put into him. Lastly, doing even thinner lines over the Blackwater sand with Drake Gray as our final highlight. Super quick, super easy, not spending a ton of time here. The goal of leaving those universal shadows is to save time by we're skipping to just the mid-tone and the highlight here. And you can see right now, as we finish up the skin, there's already this super cold tone on the skin. It's like very like frozen and almost frostbitten, which is perfect for what we're going for here. So I wanted to block in some of the other details here. I took Rucksack Tan, mixed in some Exile Blue, and painted that over the straps around the foot like his bandages. Again, leaving that dark blue in the recesses here. So once we knock out the Rucksack Tan base coat mixed with Exile Blue, we're going to take some of this Jackbone, which is, according to the bottle, a pale light brown, which is perfect for what we're going for. We want that bandage, it's like a little dirty, mixed in. Just quick little strikes on the model, doing this in 2 quick easy steps. They're straps, they don't matter. They're on the bottom of his foot. No one's looking there, I promise. Now the part I was nervous to start, non-metallic metals, the scary boogeyman of painting, it feels. Something I've never done before, and I was afraid to start. It's like, just being honest, I was like, this giant model that I'm going to like possibly mess up on, and I have a time frame to do. It was like this, all these things are like, you probably shouldn't do when you're painting. I decided to do all at once. Good job, me. But I have a pretty awesome Discord, and it links down below. Fellow painter Brian in there, he posted this picture right here of how light is on different shapes. And if you've watched any smarter people about painting, when they talk about non-metallic metals, there's always these shapes that they're referencing, and every part on the model can be transferred to a shape that is similar there, and that's how you decide where to put the shadows and your bounce lights. I didn't do a lot of bounce lights here. I just wanted to put in the lines of reflection just to get an idea of how it works. So thank you, Brian. Really appreciate you. And I don't know why I did this to myself, but this was the model I said, let's try an MM, and then it got stuck in my head. So here we are. So going with the cold steel that we're starting with, taking German gray from AK as our base tone. Again, leaving that dark blue in the darkest spots, which will actually build into the whole like cold steel, because so originally I wasn't going to do more than one metal tone. I was just going to do one metal across the whole model, simplify my life, right? Copper NMM was something I was messing around with. I was thinking about doing on another model, and I was like, well, cold copper pipes, that kind of makes sense here, so let's try that. So after blocking in 60% of the metals, I didn't finish all of them, but I was getting kind of burnt out on painting just a ton of base coats on different colored metals. I wanted to make some progress on the model so I could just see more of the model developing. I knocked out the cape super fast with a highlight over our Exile blue of Gravedigger denim, and then I did little scratches and texture of Meridius blue. So still nervous to do the next layers, probably the most important layers of the metal. I decided to paint the base instead and help break out more of the details and let more of the model come together. So I smushed some paint around on the base, add some color to the Gravedigger crate that we did, paint some of the gray on the barbed wire. And a lot of this is going to be covered in snow, so it doesn't matter how like messy it is. The idea is just to add a couple different colors, so when you're looking at the model as a whole, they're like, oh, there's colors on the base that isn't just snow. Okay, I promise, we're gonna start the metal soon, and you'll get to see how I mess it up, I promise. But I wanted to redefine some of the shapes on the airbrushed blue, so taking our rune shot, just going around and picking out all the high parts and the raised edges, or anything you think that blends together too well, just breaking that up with the edge highlight. We're here, we're finally here. As promised, we're starting with the copper, because in my head I wanted to do the copper first because it was such a different color than I normally paint. Taking some of that Scariest skin that we use as the base, mixing in vermilion red from AK, we're getting this brownish reddish mid-tone that we're gonna use to cover the majority of the copper. Have you ever looked at copper in real life or in pictures online? It's a very reddish metal, and that's what we're trying to build here. In the last step, mixing in a super bright green gray from AK to get that as our final highlight. And as we paint this on, this was a step in the metal that I was like, oh, this is actually super cool. It's not super scary to do. And I was like, I like this a lot. Now, could it be better? Sure. But I was really happy with this step, and this step made me really like where the model was going. Nearing the end here, as we start the cold steel, which is the bulk of the model. It's the home stretch, I kept telling myself, home stretch. Using graphite from AK, which is a really pale washed out gray, which is kind of perfect for the whole like cold tones that we're going for. We're covering around half, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less of the German gray that we painted prior. And then any part we did not cover, we're extending the edge highlight past where we painted just to build that effect. Now the final color here we are using is Frostbite, which is perfect for getting super close to white, but not white. Now, in real 100% effort non-metallic metals, you would want to run the full color range from dark blue all the way to bright white, pure white. But with this realm, we were trying to do this in a quick fashion and also just kind of dip our toes into the water of this like boogeyman of painting. So the Frostbite's just this off-white that's super blue shifted, so it leads to the cold tones and kind of ties the whole model together. Now, first time doing this, I'm gonna mess up. It's okay, because like on the back of this sword, on the upper part of like the little scissor hands that he has, I do not like how this looked. I still don't like it to this day. The model's still getting played on the table now. I didn't know how to place the shadows, and I was kind of in a rush to get this done. I was like, this will be good enough. Easily could go back and fix it, but I think I'm gonna leave it as one of those reflect back of what not to do next time. Only the last few steps on the model left. keeping it simple with the glow parts, starting with a white ink, as it's a bit thinner, applies smooth, and has great coverage over small areas like this, using that as the foundation for the bright glowy orbs. Taking voltaic blue, painting that directly over the white, and it's a step above rune shot, so it's going to be different enough from the rest of our model that is using the rune shot, but also still work with the whole overall model. And then taking some white paint, adding little dots and little scratches on the lenses to make it look like they're actually reflecting light. And if you're curious how I did the snow, be sure to check out my Vargas video right there, because I go over how I do the grim dark snow slurry mixture and put some on top and use the frost effect. And with the base rim of satin black from Procro, we are, being that they work in every army, are you guys using them in your list? Let me know. Let me know down below. I'd be curious to see how, if you're using them in any legacy faction, there's any weird interactions I gotta be on the lookout for. So wrapping up today's video, quick thought, maybe jumping into non-metallic metal on a time crunch and a new model, probably not the greatest idea, but I had a ton of fun doing it. I learned a lot, and I learned that non-metallic metal is not as scary as you think. The best way to try it is just to do it. Even if you mess it up, you learn and you're like, this isn't too bad. It's easy ways to just keep progressing as a painter, is just try new things. Even if you mess up, you will always learn something from it. And you non-metallic metal experts, if you're watching my videos, you know I skip things like bounce lights and other just reflections. I was just like, but that was a lot to handle with the current circumstances of how I painted this model, and that's why I missed it. But for me, this was just, I wanted to see how I placed the highlights, placed the light reflections using that cool picture from earlier, and just kind of get an idea of how it all works. And as I painted Abberation, moving on to Nostilla, Abberation in total took about 11 hours to paint, and Nostilla took 3. Way faster. I had a greater understanding, and that was just 2 models in. I can only imagine where this is going to go for me as I just do more models in the same style. And I can always go back and fix like the sword. So the other key takeaway from this model is, why did I choose to take a ton of new skills and put them on a big model like this, like almost a centerpiece for some people's armies? And I was like, because I wanted to. And I think if you're going to learn things, trying to learn things on like the grunt troops of the army where you have to paint 40 of them, that just feels very boring, and it's like, it's going to make you not want to learn it. Doing these on these cool centerpieces is way more fun to learn on. You're going to feel way better when you're done. And let's be honest, if you mess this up, which you won't, because you're going to always learn something, so there's no mistakes in painting, always ways to learn. There's always cool new models coming out. There's more models coming out tomorrow, or coming out next week. You're never going to be out of cool models that you're going to be like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to have to. There's never going to be not enough cool models for you to try new things on and keep learning. The goal of painting cool big models like this with new techniques is for you to have fun while you're learning, so you can keep painting. So I've only begun my journey in the mystical world that is this painting technique. So if you like today's video and want to see how I progress, be sure to stay tuned, like, share, and subscribe. Be sure. So if you like today's video and me stumbling through this technique and you want to see how I progress it over the next few years, be sure to stay tuned. I got big plans for big models. And if you're in the War Machine verse, the Dusk Phantasm is what I'm talking about. My favorite new model. It's gonna get the bells and whistles of everything that I can possibly learn and throw at it. So I'll see y'all next time, and